We've got somebody here in the studios that you really need to listen to. I hate to say this, but I need to say this. Right now is the worst time of the day, practically, except for the evening drive, where we find that, oh, man, and right now it is bad just because the way that the sun comes up, it gets in your eyes and things like that. A lot of accidents. Even though you may be trying to be careful, sometimes it just ain't possible. Sometimes you're being careful, the other person isn't being careful. So what are you going to do? Well, I told you before when I was talking yesterday morning about the week, and, don't believe everything that you hear, but you need to really know the truth. And we've got Bradford Pelton here. He is an attorney at law here in Colorado Springs, and it's always a pleasure to have you here in the studios, Brad.
Thanks for having me back, Paul. I really enjoy this show. I sure do.
Well, just to let folks know, personal injury, you deal with that, but there's also a couple of other things that you can help people with if they have some questions or having some struggles.
Essentially, I'd like to tell you that if you're hurt on the job, on the road, or anywhere else in between, if you've got a question, I'd sure like to have you give me a call at 719-634-8828.
And it is absolutely free. I want people to understand that. And while you've got a great staff, you're going to be the one that's going to sit down and talk with these folks, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, so there you go. You're not going to get somebody that is like a law clerk or something like that. Well, they haven't taught us that in school yet. I'll get an answer here in probably a month. You're going to be talking with Brad, 37 years of experience in legal field. Give him a call at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. Now, you know what? We were kind of talking about this, and I love this, okay? Do-it-yourselfers. Clint Eastwood was right, and I think that it was in The Enforcer when he said, a man's got to know his limitations. We all like to take and feel like, well, you know what? I could probably do that myself. I could probably take care of that. When you get into legal issues, that's a real dangerous minefield, I think, huh?
Well, I guess the story would be that if it looks simple, it sounds easy. Usually it's neither easy or simple.
Okay.
I have a story for you in my own life, and just to let you know that I came home one night and my wife tells me that the kitchen sink is leaking and that she's got it figured out. She says it's leaking there at the garbage disposal. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's perfect. I can do that. I must have spent 3, maybe 3.5 hours looking for that leak around the garbage disposal. Because sure enough, you go under the sink and look at it, and yes, it's leaking off of the garbage disposal.
Okay, well, that's easy enough. So there it is, and I'll just tighten that up, and we'll be good to go, right?
So after 3.5 hours, I look at her. I go, Jenny, I can't figure this out. We got to call the plumber. So sure enough, we call the plumber. He comes in, doesn't even take his coat off, looks under the sink, and it's leaking not from the garbage disposal, but from the main pipe into the kitchen. It's just dripping off of the garbage disposal. I spent all of my time trying to fix a problem that didn't need fixing and did not.
Yeah, you were attacking this completely wrong then.
Just goes to show you that a little knowledge can lead you in absolutely the wrong direction.
And in your case, I mean, we were talking about time that you wasted and some frustration. But at the end of the day, I mean, what is our time worth? And so 3.5 hours of your day that you could have been spent doing something that you enjoyed with your family or something like that. And yes, it cost you a little bit of money to have the plumber to come over, but it was probably a lot cheaper than what you'd spend on your time and everything.
Oh, my God. And my kitchen is put back together, and it actually looks like a home again.
But that's a perfect analogy for doing it yourself. You can be, penny wise and pound foolish, if you will. And, going back to what I was talking about, now we get into the legal field and the legal arena. And you probably deal with folks all the time that, I know a little something about the law, right? So let's go ahead and have some fun with this. And I'm not trying to point anybody out, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but I'm as guilty as anybody else. Well, I know a little bit about that.
Well, I thought I knew something about plumbing.
There you go. So it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
So you're going to go in and you're going to try to tighten up that leak in the legal arena, and you're going to spend all your time working on something that didn't even need to be done and ignoring the real cause or the real issue going on.
I would say that I spend 80% of my time trying to help people through the fog of expectation when they come into my office about a personal injury claim.
Mm-hmm.
I had some folks in yesterday where their son was hit in the head with a piece of pipe and has, subsequent to being struck in the head, he has had ongoing problems that if you look at it from the outside, after all, he didn't have the problems before the pipe hit him in the head. The problem is that no doctor is on board with that evaluation.
Oh, really?
And they're talking to me mostly about what the claim is worth, and I'm trying to explain to them that the most important issue for them to deal with is taking care of the child's medical problems. Whether they are related to this injury or not, frankly, at this point, is irrelevant. The child is not getting the medical help that he needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent about an hour and a half trying to figure out where could we send this child for a thorough evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, his doctors just aren't listening to him.
Okay.
And so hopefully we've got him pointed in the right direction. And the boy, bless his heart, was thinking about the car he was going to buy.
Okay.
And I was thinking about trying to figure out what's wrong with him so that we can adequately evaluate the claim. First things first.
Right.
Next thing's next.
And you know what? You put that so eloquently, if you will, because, the fact is that we've talked about this before. I've talked to other people about this. We see the ads all the time, I got $2 million, and stuff like that. And, okay, fine. These are things that happen, but everything is different out there. If you're taking and you're got that mindset that, somebody rear-ended me, now I'm going to be a millionaire, you need to get that out of your mind. And the first and most important thing for anybody to deal with is the fact that we have to be considerate of our physical condition. If we were in, and especially a serious accident, if we were involved in that, we need to start thinking a little bit about, wow, what happened to me? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be the way that I was before? Am I going to be able to do this and that? Am I going to have lingering problems down the line? These are all the things that, as you were speaking of, those need to be addressed first, right?
I spoke to another person following the show here last week,
mm-hmm.
and she got hit so hard that she knocked the back window out of the car with her head.
Wow.
She looks at me and says, well, my head bothers me a little bit. And looking in her eyes, looking at her demeanor, she is diminishing her own problems, hoping they're going to go away on her own, hoping that she's not going to have to deal with these issues. Most of the appointment that I had with her was to get her and her husband to recognize that denial is not the way to approach these problems.
Yeah, that's a river in Egypt.
Yes, and she was floating down that river.
So she really, she was probably still suffering from concussion and some other problems, I would say, right there. And so she was denying this, saying that, well, I'll be okay. She, wasn't thinking clearly probably and hadn't been adequately diagnosed maybe. I don't know.
Well, and the more we spoke, the more her husband spoke up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't her, it was her husband. And this is not unusual at all with persons with traumatic head injuries, mm-hmm. is that it's the family that comes in and says, they're not the same. They're acting different. She's got a shorter fuse.
Mm-hmm.
She's confused.
Yeah.
And she's looking at him like he's describing someone else.
She doesn't see this.
20 minutes into the conversation, I start to see her recognize in herself her willingness to admit that she's got more problems than she's been letting on.
Wow.
It's a tough and not terribly unusual circumstance that people will deny their own problems. Nobody wants to be hurt.
Yeah, no.
Nobody wants to have to see the doctor.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take time off from work.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there, very few, frankly, who are looking for a big payoff for nothing.
Well, and, that's that whole thing about that. And, this is interesting. And, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Bradford Pelton, and he's an attorney at law here in Colorado Springs, and he can help you. If you just have some questions, you need to give them a call at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. It's absolutely free to get your questions answered when you call the law office of Bradford Pelton. But that's part of what you do with the individualized personal service. And I'm not trying to put anybody down here. It's just that there's those out there that is the model of their practice, if you will, is cast a big net, get in a bunch, we're going to sort through it. This is going to go over there. This is going to go over there. We're not going to spend a lot of time with it. We're looking for the big stuff, and we'll just deal with the little stuff. Not a big deal. You are here to help people, and you're going to give them that personalized service because that's who they're dealing with is you. Most of the times on these other people, you'll never see that person. I don't think they live here. Last I heard that they own some island in the Bahamas or something.
Now, Paul, I promise you, we did not rehearse this.
No, I'm just saying.
But I talked to another person following the show here last week who came to me from Pueblo, and he saw my card in a restaurant where yet another one of my clients works. And he told me this story. He said that he had hired one of the larger firms here in the state, and that he'd gotten a registered letter from them that told him that, frankly, after reviewing his file, they just thought it was too small for them to bother with.
I've heard of that, and I didn't know if it was true. So it is true.
Well, they were good enough to put it in a letter.
Okay.
I've got a copy of the letter, and I'm small enough that the claim looks like something I can help him with. And so I'd just like to thank you, big box law firm.
Thanks for sending the business my way. Folks, if you want that personal individualized service, that's why you go to the law office of Bradford Pelton. And you can give them a call at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a whole lot more going on here. Great legal advice that you can use. Stay with us right here on Cruisin' Oldies, 1040 AM, 98.5 FM. Pros on Call. Be right back. We're here talking with Bradford Pelton. He is an attorney at law here in Colorado Springs, and you can give him a call. Do it today. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. And Brad, as you were saying, that anybody out there that has had some type of an injury, and whether it's been auto accident, slip and fall, injured at work or something like that, they've got questions. They really do need some help, and it's free for them to talk with you and learn a little bit more and have you guide them, right?
Well, and yes, the answer to that is yes. I'd like to tell you another real quick story. I have a friend of mine, I've known her probably 30 years, and unfortunately she called me about a issue that I have no experience in and am not in the position to help her with. Her son's got some criminal problems. She, as mother, posted bail, and the child's not showing up for court.
Uh-oh.
So I explained to her
bad kids, what you going to do?
Well, happily she called me because she didn't know who else to call.
Right.
It is not a problem that I deal with in my practice, but I certainly, after 37 years...
know the right places to go.
Know the right places.
Right.
And I came into work. This call came in Friday afternoon about 4:30, which is typical for a call like that.
Sure.
But But on my voicemail Monday morning, she had gotten a hold of my recommendation, was very, very pleased to talk to him, and a huge load had been lifted off of her mind. And just to hear her say, "Thank you for your attention.
Wow.
I'm paid in full."
And you know, that's that whole thing, and folks, you know, Brad and I were talking about that during the break, and you know, and I mean, I felt that way too, and you know what I'm talking about. You know, there's attorneys out there, very, very competent individuals and things, but very much aloof and hard to approach, and you just feel uncomfortable maybe being around them a little bit, and choosing the right attorney to represent you. You need to be comfortable with that person. It's a lot like choosing the right care provider for your health or something, and so getting to know Brad and his staff is easy, and it's absolutely free because you just give them a call at 719-634-8828, 719-634-8828. And, you know, doing it yourself, and that's what really the theme of this show has been about, doing it yourself. Going through the legal field on your own as a layperson, there's that old saying that goes along that the attorney that represents himself has a fool for a client. Well, you know, I mean, I can go on the internet and learn all kinds of stuff. Well, I went to YouTube. I already know how to do this. But you probably dealt with this. We were talking about this, and I want to warn people about this, is that the insurance companies, when you're dealing with them, they want you to settle and sign and get you out of their life. And once you do, you're done, right?
If you sign on that line, you are done. They call them full and final for one reason only. It's full and it's final.
So if somebody took and they weren't sure, and especially, and it really gets, I know, you know, it's tough. You need the money. Maybe you've been out of work or something like that, and you want to get it settled because you want to get the money and get your life back. But you could make a huge mistake that could cost you the rest of your life.
As my dad would say, slow and easy. Give yourself plenty of time to think. Know what you're doing before, not after, you decide to sign on that dotted line.
Wise man, wise words. But this is why it's so important to have competent legal counsel, such as the law office of Bradford Pelton, because you all are going to be the ones that are going to be watching over this and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And it's not your first rodeo.
Well, and there are many, many circumstances in people's lives that cause them to go in many, many different directions. As long as they have, my clients, as long as I've discussed it with them and they have full disclosure, I've done my due diligence, I've advised them of the pros and the cons of their decisions. None of these are easy. It's simple to say yes or no, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
And so my practice is I don't do anything, and I don't do anything without my client's individual knowledge, permission, and approval.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen unless they're okay with it before I make the move.
So that doesn't come down to, oh, I didn't tell you about that? Yeah. Oh, that's odd.
Well, again, these issues are not easy, and the trade-offs can be dramatic. I've certainly had clients look at me and say, I understand what you're saying, and I still want you to settle it. I'll do it.
But as long as they understand fully where you're at today, what that means for them in the future. But the fact is that sometimes you get caught up in this in the wheels of justice, if you will, and you can be run over by those.
I had yet another client call me on Friday. The insurance carrier had made her an offer. She turned it down. And so I told the lawyer this was a no-go. The next thing I get from him is another offer.
Huh.
And so I called her, and we talked about it. And on Friday she said, I want you to settle this claim. And I told her that I was concerned about her decision, mm-hmm. and that I wanted her to think it over the entire weekend. Mm-hmm. Talk it over with her husband, talk it over with her family, frankly, talk it over with anybody she wanted to talk it over with.
Right.
On Monday, she called me and said, I've thought it over, I've talked to my husband, I've talked to my family, and I still am instructing you to settle that claim. And I said, with your instructions, with your knowledge, your permission, and your approval, I will do exactly that. And we got it settled for her.
Well, and there you go. But, at least she knows exactly where she's at. She had enough time to really consider all of the things that were associated with this. And so down the line, you can't go back and go shoulda, coulda, woulda. And that's really the point of it, the moral of our story here today.
That's exactly right.
And, folks, don't take on the insurance company and the legal system on your own. There is help available, and you can give them a call today at the law office of Bradford Pelton, 719-634-8828, 719-634-8828, online, BradfordPelton.com. And Brad, thanks so much for being here. Boy, we got more to talk about next week, I'm sure.
I'm looking forward to it, Paul. Thank you very much.